Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. I hope all of you would be doing well. I welcome you all to my introductory video, which highlights the changes between the Finance Act 23 versus the Finance Act 24. So, just to give you the context, this video must be watched by the students who studied for the Finance Act 23, and due to any reason, for example, they got flunked, they got some other commitments due to which they're not able to appear in Finance Act 23 exams, which were like held from June 24 to March 25. They are not able to attempt it and they need to restudy for the exams in between of June 25 to March 26. So this video must be watched by all of those persons, all of those students who want to opt for Finance Act 24 and they have studied Finance Act 23. So this video is not very relevant for the newbie who is studying ATX for the first time. So this video should be what for somewhat who is like done with one at least one time with the ATX syllabus. So, what are the key changes which is in between the Finance Act 23 versus the Finance Act 24? So, if I look into the first section, which is about the income tax, so with respect to income tax, with respect to that income tax rates, the basic rate, the high rate, the additional rate, there is no change in the Finance Act. Whereas if I look towards uh, the nil rate bands, the exemptions. So from savings income perspective, there is no change in the exemption. Whereas for dividend income, previously means until Finance Act 2023, the exemption used to be 1,000 for everyone. But from 24, like in Finance Act 24, this exemption has been reduced to 500 for everyone. So this is not a positive change, like not a positive for the taxpayer, but this is a change. Like dividend exemption is no more 1,000 for every person. It is now 500 for every person. Now, if I move forward, um, if I look into the personal allowance as part of the income tax, there is no change in the personal allowance rate. 12,570 remains same. Transferable amount or marriage allowance, what we used to say that is 1,260, no change. The income limit for standard personal allowance remains 100,000. Income limit for standard personal allowance means if income exceeds 100,000, for every increase in £2, personal allowance reduces by £1. So this philosophy, the threshold remains the same. There is no change in that. The residency status remains the same. For example, previously resident, previously not resident, more than 183 of different buckets. So everything that residency table remains same. There is no change. Even there is a remittance basis charge concept as part of the income tax. And even there is no change in the remittance basis charge concept as well. So if a person is resident for more than 7 out of 9 years, the remittance basis charge remains 30,000. And if a person is resident for more than 12 out of 14 years, the remittance basis charge remains constant at 60,000. So there is no change in that. Now, if I move forward, there was a concept of child benefit income tax charge. This concept is very less examined or discussed in ATX, but this is there. So, what is the concept? For example, for every if a person earns less than 50,000, there is no child benefit income tax charge. If a person earns more than 60,000, all of the child benefit has to be returned to tax authority as part of their income tax liability. And where the income is in between of 50 and 60,000, for every £100 of increase from 50,000, 1% of the child benefit received to be added into the income tax liability. The only change is now this 50 is now changed to 60,000 and this 60 is now changed to 80,000. So, and previously where for every 100, 1% was supposed to increase, now 1% would increase for every £200 of income. So this is the only change, but like I said, this is very less or very least examined area in the ATX. Individual savings account, 20,000 limit. can be invested in cash ISA, stock ISA remains the same moving forward. Income tax, car benefit as part of employment income remains same. Fuel benefit remains same. There is no change in them. Company van benefits, the van benefit itself and the van fuel benefit remains same. However, there is a change in wording of the one area where previously van with zero CO2 emission does not give rise to a benefit. It means that carries a zero benefit. The concept is same. It's just more explicitly mentioned that if a van is zero emission producing, there will be no benefit. There will be 0% benefit. So in essence, from a mathematical perspective, there is no change, but it's just more clarification of a tax law. So I do not count it as a change, by the way. Then, as part of property income, rent a room relief 7,500 remains same, no change. There are some changes in the pension scheme limits. What are the changes? So previously, there was one annual allowance limit of 40,000 per annum, which is like constant for every year. But now this 40,000 limit has been increased. So the annual allowance limit for 21-22 and 22-23 is 40,000 each year. And for 23-24 and 25-26 is now 60,000 each year. So this is something which will be provided in the tax rate and allowances section. But just to give you a reference, that the annual allowance is no more 40,000 per annum. So it's for current year, it's 60,000, previous year, 60,000. And before previous year, it's still 40. If you recall, this annual allowance starts tapered if income is uh, more than 240,000. If for every £2 increase in income, your annual limit, annual allowance limit goes down by £1, and the minimum allowance can be 40,000. The change is this income limit of 240 is now changed to 260, and this 4,000 of minimum allowance is changed to 10,000. So minimum allowance previously 10,000, now it cannot be less than 10,000. The threshold income, the disposable income concept remains same at 200,000. So if a person earns threshold income of less than 200,000, tapering off annual allowance limit is not applicable at all. Lifetime allowance limit, that's part of the pension income, that 25% of lower of pension fund or lifetime allowance limit can be withdrawn. So this lifetime allowance limit is abolished now. So as the implication of this thing is, maximum 25% can be withdrawn as lump sum. You cannot withdraw more than that. And to whatever extent amount you purchase the annuity from the pension fund, the annuity is now always be taxed at 20, 40, 45%. Previously, if within the limit, then it was 20, 40, 45, and above the limit annuity purchase, the tax rate was 25%. So above the limit concept is all abolished because the limit is no doesn't exist anymore. The maximum contribution which can qualify for tax relief without earnings is 3,600, remains same, no change for that. Now, if I look into the approved mileage allowance for cars, no change. Capital allowance, no change at all. Cars, with respect to capital allowances, no change for cars. In the similar way, annual investment allowance, no change. Enhanced capital allowance, apparently it looks to be a change, but again, like I said previously, it's more clarification of wordings. There is no mathematical change. So this particular discussion of enhanced capital allowances for companies, and if you recall, for for 2 years from 1st April 2001 till 31st March 2023, the concept of enhanced capital allowance was introduced. After 31st March 23, the concept of capital allowance was abolished, removed. But now, from 1st April 23, we are discussing the disposal implication of the assets acquired during that period. So what are the disposal treatment? So if asset is disposed of from main pool, you will get 100% expense. And if the disposal is made from a special rate pool, then 50% of the expense should be recorded, right? This exists in the previous Finance Act. Just to reiterate, it's just more clarification of the wording in this tax law. Uh, Structure and building allowance remains 3%. There is no change in that. Now, if I move forward, cash basis of accounting. This is very interesting change. For cash basis of accounting, there was a revenue limit of 150,000. So if your revenue is less than 150,000, you can opt for it. And if your revenue exceeds 150,000, you cannot opt for it. Very interestingly, and that's a very interesting and fundamental change in taxation, something which changed the basis of taxation. From Finance Act 24, the revenue limit has been removed. And conceptual change is trading income would now be calculated on cash basis. So now cash basis is the default method to calculate trading income, and accrual basis now becomes the alternate method to calculate the trading income. Like, just to give you a reference, property income by default, and at the moment we are talking about income tax, we are not talking about corporation tax. Like property income, by default, the property income methodology is to calculate via cash basis. But if ABC conditions met, then the person can opt for the accrual basis. Here, there is no concept, like there is no such conditions to follow the accrual basis. Business can opt. The word is the business can opt for accrual, but by default, the methodology is the cash basis. So this is something which is new to this Finance Act. And in addition to that, since last year, there is very one interesting exercise going on with respect to the trading. Okay, with respect to the trading income, which is like trading income is no more taxed on current year basis. Now it is going to be taxed on the tax year basis. So there are some more clarifications, there are some more explanations on that front as well, which part the conceptual change. So I personally believe that students will be facing or observing questions from the trading income type of area in this Finance Act. And by the way, just to give you one more context, now as part of income tax, if I look from a broader perspective, employment was already on receipt basis, cash basis. Interest was already on receipt cash basis, except of accrued income scheme. Dividend on receipt basis, pension income on receipt basis, property income already on receipt basis. If certain exceptions applies, then it can be on accrual, but by default it's on cash basis. Trading income was the only one which was by default on accrual. If conditions applied, it can be on cash basis. But now this discrimination or differentiation in trading income is abolished from the income tax universe. From the income tax perspective, still, like, income tax is also now on cash basis, and if exemption, certain situation, it can be on accrual basis. So by default, every question would involve the cash basis unless specified to do so. Cap on income tax relief, 20, 50,000 or 25% of other total income remains same. There is no change into that. Um, Corporation tax. For corporation tax, the 21 is removed from the tax rate and allowances information, and 24 has been introduced. And if you look, 24 is same as Finance Act 2023. The good thing of this change is, for example, now you need to be less worried about the concept of a straddling year type of things, because for a straddling year, normally it's between the current Finance Act and the previous Finance Act, and previous Finance Act is same as the current year. Hence, there will be no as such implications of the straddling year even. The marginal relief The quarterly installment threshold, everything remains the same in the corporation tax, so no as such discussion over here. From a VAT perspective, that's a very interesting and maybe something a change which is after 2 3 years, that the standard rate of VAT is same. The registration limit, which was 85, and deregistration, which was 83, is now changed to 90,000 and 88,000 respectively. So no, not commenting anything, just a change in the threshold limit. And secondly, for the penalties, uh, for late return, for late payment, where a penalty was previously mentioned as 4% plus a 4% daily penalty. Again, it is more clarified that this 4% is annual percentage. It's not a daily percentage. So 4% plus a daily penalty at an annual rate of 4%. So for example, if a person is more than is late by 10 days, so it would be 4% multiplied by 10 upon 365. Previously, it was the impression that it would be 4% multiplied by 10, because it is not mentioned that it's a daily percentage or annual percentage. So it's now more clarified. But that was something which was issued last year as part of the clarifications by the tax authorities, but now it's part of the tax law, clarified in the tax law. If I look into inheritance tax, there is no change into the inheritance tax. Nil rate bands, tax bands, taper relief percentage, business property relief, agricultural property relief. There is no change at all. The only one minor, and I hope you guys understand this change, is previously agricultural property relief is available in respect of the property which was located in overall European Economic Area. But considering the Brexit scenario, the APR is only available now in the property situated in UK only. Um, Capital gains, interesting. Two changes only from the capital gains. The first important change is the residential property high rate is now reduced from 28 to 24%, and the annual exempt amount of 6,000 has been reduced to 3,000. So this is the only change in the capital gains tax universe. Apart from that, the BADR limit, the investor relief limit, the rate of tax, everything remains the same. Now, if I move forward from NIC perspective, NIC class 1, 1A, 2, 4. So from class 1 employee NIC perspective, this 12% is now reduced to 8%, whereas no change in the class 1 employer NIC. So the class 1 employer NIC remains the same. Class 1A NIC remains the same. Interestingly, class 2 NIC concept has been removed. So now the sole traders are only supposed to pay class 4 NIC. So for sole traders, on their trading income, there will not be two NICs, there will be only one NIC of class 4. And interestingly, class 4 NIC percentage has also been reduced from 9% to 6%. Rate of interest, the official rate of interest remains 2.25. Just to give you a context, the official rate of interest is used as part of expensive accommodation benefit, as part of loan benefit. So that remains the same. But interest on underpaid tax has been increased from 6.5 to 7.5, and rate of interest on overpaid tax has been increased from 3% to 4.5%. Standard penalties for errors remains the same: deliberate and concealed, deliberate not concealed, careless error. Uh, all remains the same, so not going into detail. The stamp taxes, stamp duty, land tax on residential property, non-residential properties remains the same. There is no change at all. Last, not the least, there are some other miscellaneous changes, and this slide is something which is not part of the tax rate and allowances section, but there are changes, so that's why I'm highlighting over here. So the first change which I like to highlight is company share option plan, which is part of the employment income topic. Previously, in the company share option plan, the maximum value of shares held can be 30,000 per person. Now this maximum value is increased to 60,000 per person. So everything else remains same. This threshold has been increased. The second is the tax efficient investments, which is part of, and one of the part is Seeds Enterprise Investment Scheme, which is abbreviated as SEIS. Previously, the maximum qualifying investment was 100,000 per annum. Now, this maximum qualifying investment limit has been increased from 100,000 to 200,000 per annum. So as a result, there will be more income tax relief. There will be more capital gains exemptions in case of reinvestment into SEIS shares. Um, Last change is about the corporation tax, research and development expenditure. So previously for research and development, we need to categorize the company into two categories. One, the company can be SME. One, the company can be large company. For SME, there was a concept of 186% of tax deduction. So whatever amount you incur, you can take a tax deduction of 186%. And for large company, there was a concept of tax credit of 13%, but that 13% used to be a taxable receipt for income tax purposes. But now, tax authorities remove the differentiation between large companies and small companies, and a single research and development expenditure credit, which is abbreviated as RDEC, research and development expenditure credit concept, has been introduced. Under this concept, you will get 20% tax credit like this, but this will be a taxable receipt like this. So more alignment towards the large company concept, but now this concept is applicable, available to each and every company. However, there are some more granularity, some more rules, regulation in this, but I'm keeping this summary of changes at a very high level. So if you find this video useful for you, helpful for you, please do let me know in the comments. Thank you very much. Keep spreading this video for the benefit of your fellows who not able to appear in, who studied in Finance Act 23 but not able to appear due to any of the reason. So stay blessed, keep helping each other. Take care. Allah Hafiz.